we'll make a start, and a big welcome to the Time2Move holiday programme provider webinar. We've only got a small number on the call this evening, and we are going to record this. So we're going to record this session, and so if you've got a challenge with that and you want to turn your camera off, then please do. And if you could also just make sure your microphone is muted. And then if we do some questions at the end and you want to ask, you can come off mute, or you can use the chat function throughout. So please just put any questions or comments in the chat function moving forward. It's going to be short and sharp. We're going to make sure this session is only going to last an hour and make sure everybody's finished in good time. So welcome. My name is Tim Marion. I'm the Children, Young People and Families Manager at Active Cornwall. And we've been asked to take a lead on the holiday and activities and food programme that's funded by the Department for Education through to every local authority in the country. So big thank you for giving up your time this evening. We ran one of these webinars 2 days ago during the day, and we do really appreciate the time of you guys as providers and the people that we're going to need on the ground for this programme to be successful as we move forward. So within the next hour, we've got a couple of colleagues which are going to join me. There's a colleague called Lewis Sanders, who's one of our partnership development officers, and will be your point of contact as a provider moving forward. And then we're really making sure that that food element is really central to this programme. And it's great that we've got Shelley Jameson, who is working within the Public Health and Wellbeing Service and within Healthy Cornwall as our food lead for this programme. And Shelley's going to talk through that element later on as well. There'll be plenty of opportunities for you to ask some questions. As I said, you use the chat function, or when we get to the Q&A, if you want to take your microphone off, then we can ask those questions live, and we'll do our best to answer them. We are going to produce a frequently asked questions document post this for all providers. So any questions you've got, please do ask away and put them in as we move forward this evening. And then we'll make sure we really finish clarifying those next steps for you and what you need to do as a provider to really engage and be part of this programme this summer. So a bit of an overview, and I'm sure you're all aware about those particular challenges that some families can have over the school holidays, such issues as food, the childcare, reduced incomes, and therefore these families on low incomes are less likely to access organised out-of-school activities. They're more likely to experience the unhealthy holidays, and they're more likely to experience social isolation. We know in Cornwall, on the back of the current pandemic that we've really got this triple inequality in Cornwall. We know we've got lower levels of physical activity than we've ever had in children and young people. We know we've got increased levels of social isolation within children and young people, and we also know we've got increased levels of poor diet in children and young people. And this programme is very much there to address that triple inequality over the holiday period. So we did some pilot work over Easter, and you can see the Easter Holidays Wellbeing Pack image on there, where we produced a Wellbeing Pack for all children on free school meals within schools. And we also did some piloted delivery within 8 education bubbles on education sites as well. So we know we need to move that forward to the summer. We need to really scale up that delivery. Because of this, the government have put over £220 million into this programme. And for Cornwall, that equates to £1.6 million. So it's a big programme, but it's big reach, it's big numbers. And therefore, we really need to engage with you guys as providers to help us deliver this programme on the ground moving forward and really benefit those children and young people that you currently do engage with or would like to engage with. So therefore, it doesn't have to be new delivery. It can support current delivery or delivery that happened last summer or the summer before. We're not trying to get providers to set up new delivery just for this intervention. There's a huge challenge because of what I've just talked about, and a huge challenge that we need to try and address. We need to help children to eat more healthily over the school holidays, and Shelley's going to touch on some of that later. We need to encourage children to be more active during the school holidays, and that doesn't mean traditional sports. We tend to talk more about just getting children to play more and move more. So really think about that physical activity and how we really link in the angle of fun. It may really making sure that our sessions focus on it being fun and engaging for the children and young people that we're attracting to come to these sessions. How do we also encourage them to take part in engaging and enriching activities? We are looking to support their developments around their resilience, their own character and their well-being. And if it can, how does it link into that wider educational attainment and help with that, those elements where children have missed out on that education, and link into the new announcement of the summer schools for year 7 that secondary school children can attend and be delivered on secondary school sites. How do we make sure it's really safe and not socially isolated? How do we make sure that these children get a greater knowledge of health and nutrition? And how do we make sure it's really engaged with schools and wider services? We know the type of children we're looking to engage with. They're going to need the support of further services. So how do we link that in as well with this programme moving forward? So it doesn't just look like the normal kind of summer camp that you see other providers deliver, but really targeting and addressing those 6 bullet points there as the challenge ahead. The scale's quite big. We know this was taken from the October half-term school census that 12,711 children were registered for free school meals across Cornwall. These are children aged 5 to 16 in primary and secondary education, not children that have moved on into FE or HE. It's only those children in aged 5 to 16. We know now this is more like 15,000 children. Families' circumstances have changed because of the pandemic and would change generally anyway, that this is probably up to around 15,000 children and young people now are registered for free school meals. So we're looking at an intervention that has an offer to all of those children. But realistically, and Lewis will talk a bit about this later, realistically, if we can get 30% of them to attend to 4 days of provision over the period, then that will move us forward over to the summer holidays. The ask, this is a really clear 10-point guide to the ask of you as providers. We need to address that challenge. We need to address the scale, and therefore the ask, and what we're looking to providers to do is to deliver 4 weeks of activity for 4 hours a day over the summer holidays. And we need to make sure we offer activity free of charge for all children on free school meals to attend. So to make sure we've got an offer for all those children, all the way from Penzance to Bude, making sure that we've got that real offer across the whole of Cornwall for all of those young people to be able to attend if they see that provision as something that they're interested in, and hopefully making sure that that offer is attractive to them. We need to make sure the programme is open access. We're very clear that we don't want this to be seen as a free school meal kids club and to be just provision for free school meal club children. Yes, we will target them. Yes, we'll make sure the promotion speaks to them. And yes, we'll make sure the offer is attractive to free school meal children. But free school meal children don't just hang around with free school meal children. So we need to make sure that they can go with their peers, their friendship groups, and they really can take in a programme that is really fun and engaging. And therefore it needs to be open access for all children to attend. We need to ensure a minimum of 50% of the delivery is physical activity. And then wider than that, we can offer those wider enrichment activities as well to top up that. So a minimum of 50% physical activity, and then we can offer those wider cultural, art, whatever you want to see as those wider enrichment activities. And again, it's best to know that that's what's needed. We've done some consultation. We know what that wider enrichment activity looks like. We need to provide a national school food standards meal. So we need to make sure that all children get the offer of a free national school food standards meal on this provision when it comes forward. And again, Shelley will touch on that a bit later. We also need to make sure that we offer some wider nutritional education as well. Really important that we look at this about how this programme can change behaviours moving forward. So can it change behaviours towards physical activity? Can it change behaviours towards diet and food? And therefore we're looking to deliver some really wider nutritional education that could engage families. So really, how do we engage families on this programme as well to make sure if we're going to change behaviours of these children, we need to look to change behaviours of the whole family and have a whole family approach moving forward with the interventions we're looking to deliver this summer. We also need to make sure that we can signpost children to further opportunities and services. There may be further physical activity opportunities, but it also could be to wider services that they need to support them with wherever they are within their life stage at the moment and the challenges that they may have. So again, we can support that to make sure that we can offer that and you can signpost those children moving forward. And there is a number of standards that Lewis will touch on later that we need to make sure we adhere to make sure what we're offering is a safe, child-friendly environment for these children to come and engage in as well, and we can deliver to those required standards. So we're being really upfront about the ask. We want you to engage as providers. We need you to share the word in your local communities with other providers that you know and engage with about this great opportunity to engage in, but we want to be upfront about the ask of you as providers from the very start. And I didn't say, we'll make sure this presentation is made available. It will be emailed out to you post this webinar, so you can you'll pick up those 10 things. You can see them in the presentation that gets sent out. So this summer, we're looking at 2 approaches. We're looking at a targeted approach where we may commission local providers, schools, community, youth, church groups, whatever that looks like, to deliver these interventions for us. But we also know that we need to have an open application process where we know that people can bid in and can really look to develop some great programs, some really innovative, great programs that really engages with these children and their families, and therefore we want to support them as well. So 2 processes this summer, and that's how we're looking to shape the delivery moving forward. So we know within all of that, this 2-staged approach, the 10 stages of the ask that we need you to adhere to, there's a number of risk elements moving forward. Recruitment of children on free school meals. It's not a free school meal kids club, but it is targeting them. So how do we recruit them? How do we get the message right? How do we get the offer right that's going to recruit and attract children on free school meals to come onto these interventions and these programs that you're going to deliver within their communities? This summer, there's a real transition away from food vouchers. There is not going to be a government-funded holiday food voucher. Probably all aware of the work that Marcus Rashford did to engage with the government to fund holiday food vouchers. That's not going to continue this summer. So we're going to transition away from that. This programme is not replacing it, but it is going to be the only intervention where these families can get a meal for their child during the school holidays. We know in Cornwall massively we've got to have rural provision. We're going to need some smaller, low-scale delivery within rural communities. How does that work? How does it cost more for that provision? How do we overcome some of the transport barriers because of that? And how do we work with you to give you that support you need to deliver in our rural communities in Cornwall? And therefore we don't penalise children and young people on free school meals just because they live out in some of our rural villages or hamlets. The scale, I've talked about the scale, but it's big. Even though we're saying we really were targeting 30% to attend, we know that scale is big. We were looking at 50%, but realistically, from engaging with wider providers, we know realistically now we're challenging that down to make sure we deliver a real quality programme and have 30% of children on free school meal attending provision over the summer period, and Lewis will touch more on that. Timescales, I'm pretty sure I've updated this as we deliver this presentation that we're 15 weeks till the summer. So timescales are tight. How do we work within those timescales to make sure we know when it comes to the summer, we've got the promotion right, we've got the right providers working in the right space, and therefore we know those timescales are going to be really tight for us to achieve that. Stigma's a huge thing for us. I've talked about free school meal kids clubs. We don't want to deliver them. How do we make sure we get that right? That is, yes, it is free for free school meal kids, but again, how do we make sure we address that stigma in the messaging and the comms that we put out? And we're going to support that. We're going to make sure we're going to produce the message to make sure all providers say the same message around this program, to get that out. And again, if you're a provider working with this audience, working with vulnerable children, then again, we can support your work, and you do, by integrating this delivery into your current programs to address that stigma. We know it's going to be harder for secondary older children. Primary school children, we know it's easier to get to holiday provision. How do we make sure that offer, that drop-in element works for secondary school children to attend something that's really attractive to them? And how do we make sure we've got an offer for special educational needs and disabled children? Because that's really important for us. We know a really high percentage of free school meal children are also registered SEND. So how do we make sure that there's a real attractive and suitable offer for SEND children in Cornwall? And what different providers do we need to work to, or what different training do we need to deliver to make sure we've got that offer right? And then finally, how do we ensure that consistency of the food offer? How do we really make sure that the food element is front and central to what we're looking to deliver, and not something that's a bolt-on? Not that this is a physical activity program and there'll be a bit of food and we might get a few meal deals or something like that and have some crisps and chocolate bars to dish out. How do we really make sure that that food offer is consistent and front and central to what we're looking to deliver through this program? Bit of a whistle-stop intro from myself. Opportunity to use the chat function in the Teams. If you're not used to using Teams, then you'll find a chat function, and you can go into there and you can look at the chat function that you've got to put some questions in there, and we'll pick that up moving forward. Talking of that consistency of the food offer, I'm going to move straight on and introduce our food specialist. It's actually great that we're engaging with Shelley on this program. Shelley's here to support us, but also to support you guys as well around making sure we get that consistency of the food offer moving forward. So I'm going to introduce Shelley, and Shelley will come on now around the time to eat element.
Lovely. Thanks very much, Tim. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Hi, nice to meet you all. My name's Shelley Jameson, and I'm a public health practitioner for Cornwall Council. I have worked with Healthy Cornwall for over 10 years now, supporting families that are above a healthy weight, and also supporting early year settings and schools to become health promoting environments. So I've also delivered lots of training around food and nutrition. So I'm hoping that I should be able to help you and give you the tools that you need to be able to do this properly. So it's quite an exciting opportunity for me. So if you could just move the slide on for me, Tim. So I think it's really, really important that before we start, you need to understand, why it's important that we make sure that children eat well while they're with you. We need to make the most of every single opportunity because, children can only really learn from, their home environment or at school. So it means that when we're caring for children, we need to make the most of those opportunities. So it's important that you know what the consequences are of poor eating patterns. Okay, so I'm just going to run through these. So the first one is taking in too much energy. So if you take in more energy than you burn off, then it's going to sit in your body and your weight will increase. Okay, so there's an increased risk of becoming overweight, going on to become obese, and there's lots of diseases that can come through weight gain. So this can be preventable. This is one of the diseases these are some diseases that could be preventable with thinking about what you're eating. Okay, the next one is taking in too much sugar. Now, we all know we eat a lot of sugar. We do. For some reason, we're snacking on foods that used to be party foods. Children are given them, between meal times, perhaps to just tie them over. And what we call these empty calories, they provide hardly any nutrition, and they are just calories into the body. But what they also do is they do damage teeth. And obviously, during primary years, definitely, and into some of the secondary years, children have their little milk teeth, and they can be easily damaged. So there's a huge amount of tooth decay that happens during this time. The other thing is high salt intake. Now, years ago, I know that we would add salt to cooking. There would be salt on the table, and you would add it to your food. And I also know now that heart conditions are one of the biggest problem in the UK. So years ago, we didn't necessarily know that high intakes of salt was linked to high blood pressure. High blood pressure is linked to increased pressure on the heart, increased risk of heart disease and stroke as well. So we really, really want to turn this around. We don't want children to have this taste for salt that perhaps adults have got in the UK at the moment. The other thing is low fruit and veg intake. It's so important that children have fruit and veg in their diet. That's where they get their vitamins and minerals from. So if they don't eat fruit and veg, they won't have the right balance of vitamins and minerals. So that deficiency can really impact on their development and reduce their immunity as well. So all of these things are things that we need to think about when we're thinking about feeding children. If you could just go on to the next slide, please. So what does it look like at the moment? The first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is weight. Now, when children go to primary school, in their reception year and in the year that they leave primary school in year 6, they are weighed and measured. Okay, and this is called the National Child Measurement Programme, and this is a programme that I lead on for Cornwall. We know that a quarter of children are above a healthy weight by the time they start primary school. A quarter of children are already above a healthy weight. We know that by the time they reach year 6, a third of children are above a healthy weight. And we know that 2/3 or over 2/3 of adults are above a healthy weight. So the problem isn't getting any better. It isn't going away on its own. So it's something we know we need to do something about. So this programme is very important because the National Child Measurement Programme, it really tells us what it feeds into the services. It tells us what services we need, and we know that we need to have prevention. We know that we need to invest in prevention because this is all going to impact on their health for the future. Could you just pop on the next slide, please? So let's talk about sugar. As I mentioned before, children and adults, we're all eating far too much sugar. There's a lot of work being done to reduce it, but sugar damages teeth. So what happens when you eat sugar is the bacteria in your saliva, it gives off an acid, and that acid erodes the teeth, okay, particularly the milk teeth. Now, when children are snacking on sugary snacks all day, or perhaps drinking sugary drinks, that mouth never gets a rest. The pH never balances back out again, and so the teeth just don't have a chance to recover. Now, something that I was told a number of years ago, and it still stands, which I found really shocking, is that it's the #1 reason why children go under general anaesthetic. It's because of tooth decay and having teeth extracted or repaired. The #1 reason in the UK. Okay, and we know that a third of 5-year-olds, by the time they're in school in their first year, a third of them have already got tooth decay. So again, it's not getting any better. Okay, and it's something we need to do something about. Can you go on to the next slide, please? So I did mention the impact of too much sugar, too much fat in the diet, and how your body can increase weight. We know that it impacts on children emotionally. We know that they may need to take time off school, so it can affect them academically. We know that it puts pressure on. I think what people don't realise perhaps is that when you put on weight, it doesn't just sit under your skin, it surrounds your organs. So it puts pressure on every single system in the body. Okay, and then people can go on to become unwell. So children can go on to become unwell. So if you are above a healthy weight as a child, you've got obviously a very increased risk of being above a healthy weight as an adult, and an increased risk of dying earlier than your healthy weight friends. So this is all something that we really need to take seriously and work towards preventing. Okay. So let's make the change. Like I said, I see this as a really exciting opportunity. Children are going to meet new people. They're going to be perhaps in new places and seeing new things. And so I think, if you can champion and model this change, then, they will remember that. We don't need to offer biscuits and sweets as rewards. In fact, children don't remember when they've been offered a biscuit as a reward, but they do remember your words and they do remember praise. So please remember that. So, think outside the box when it comes to rewarding children that are in your care and model this change. Could you just move the slide on again, please? There's a huge amount of work being done in Cornwall, and Sugar Smart Cornwall is something again that I'm leading on, and actually we're leading the way in the UK. We're very proud. We've got lots and lots of organisations that have signed up to be Sugar Smart across Cornwall. So if your organisation hasn't already done so, then please sign up to be a Sugar Smart organisation. What you do is you log in and you make some pledges. and you think about your staff and your team, and obviously, you know, being bold and proud about the fact that you're making sugar smart choices, and you've got access to lots and lots of resources to help you along the way as well. So this is a really good thing to do. So if you haven't already done so, please sign up. Okay, so Tim mentioned the school food plan. So this is the standard that we would like you to, or you must, you know, comply with when you're feeding children during the holiday time, the same as schools do during, you know, the term time. Now, the school food plan came about because, if you remember years ago, Jamie Oliver, he was very shocked when he investigated, you know, what children are eating at school, and he really felt that, oh my goodness, it can be so much better than that. And so he came up, well, the team came up with the school food plan. Lots of resources to help change things, and some school food standards were written. Now, these were written a number of years ago. And actually, when I look at them, I think, gosh, we could even do better than that now. So, oh. So yeah, so the school food standards is something that we're going to be working towards, and I don't want you to feel sort of on your own with this. You may have, you might recognise the Eat Well guide there on the slide. Now, the Eat Well guide is what we consider to be the healthy balance. So we recommend that we should have a third of our intake should be fruit and veg. The other third should be carbohydrates, so and whole grain carbohydrate as well. And then the bottom section, the bottom third is split between proteins and dairy. And you'll see a little purple section there, which is a little thin section, and that's fats and spreads. And you'll see that that's tiny. And the idea there is that, you know, we know that you need to cook with a little bit of oil or a little bit of fat, but really keep it to a minimum. Okay. Now, over in the bottom left-hand corner there, you'll see crisps, biscuits, ice cream, chocolate. Those are what I was referring to as empty calories. They offer no nutrition. They're not on the Eat Well guide. And so we recommend that you don't offer those. Okay, so they're not making the most of an eating point. If you offer those to children, then you're really giving them zero nutrition at that eating point in the day. Okay, so it'd be no surprise to you that the school food standards is based around cooking with real food, basic ingredients, and promoting, you know, the benefits of that as well to families. Okay. So we will be going through a little bit more detail. I'll support you with that, with some training. But yeah, it's very interesting, and you'll find that there will be some things that you want to change about your own eating habits as well once you learn about the Eat Well guide. Okay, if you'd like to move the slide on, please. So Tim mentioned the support from Healthy Cornwall. Healthy Cornwall have a children and young people's team, and they are throughout the whole county, and they are there to support you. Depending on the type of organisation that you are, you know, your support might look quite different from somebody else's, and that's absolutely fine. But one thing that we know that we're able to do is to offer you training around the school food standards, just to make everything as basic and simple as possible. Menu planning advice. If you have a menu in place and you want to send it over to me, then please do. I can have a look at it and give you some advice. So that's something that we can do all along the way. Okay. Again, resources. If there's a healthy eating session that you want to do and you need some resources for that, then please contact Healthy Cornwall, because they can offer you lots of different tools and resources there, and obviously ongoing support around healthy eating advice. We know that nutrition is perhaps an area that many people go, oh gosh, I'm not really sure. You know, how can we possibly know everything? And we don't expect you to know everything. The support is there. Okay. If you'd just like to move it on. Now I've put some useful links up for you here as well. The top one is the school food plan, and you can see on the picture there that's just a picture of what the website looks like. So you can see there's lots of information and resources on there. So please do have a little look through and see what's there. They've got checklists and all sorts of tools, recipes, and what works well is a very good guide. It's a fairly newish guide, just kind of condenses everything down to tell you, what's actually working really well and what's easy to do. So it's definitely worth a read. So have a look at that. The other thing that Tim mentioned was the, food activities with children and promoting healthy eating to families. Now, there's a couple of websites there that I find really useful for this. Food, A Fact of Life. They've got fantastic resources and they've got some sessions already planned for all the different age groups. So that's really, really good. So explore that one. Change for Life. I'm sure you've heard of Change for Life. They've got many, leaflets and all sorts of recipes and bits and pieces that you've got access to there free of charge. Sugar Smart, I've already mentioned to you. And then the last one is Healthy Start. So we know that many families, obviously, if they're receiving their free school meals, many of them will be eligible for Healthy Start if they've got children under the age of 4 as well. So Healthy Start is money off their shopping and free vitamins for their children as well, and for pregnant ladies. So it's a really good thing. So just make sure that you've got all of that sort of packaged together, Healthy Start to support the families as well, because it's something we're really pushing forward in Cornwall. So I hope that really helps. It's just a very quick whistle-stop tour, but please feel free to get in contact if you've got any questions. As Tim mentioned, we are developing the frequently asked questions document, which we hope to send around soon. So hopefully, if you've got any questions along the way, I can answer them for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Really, really appreciate it. It's great to have Shelley on board supporting the providers that we've got in Cornwall delivering this programme. Currently, we've got no questions in the chat, so feel free if anyone's got any questions, and there's no right or wrong questions, any concerns, then feel free to put them in the chat and we can pick them up. We're going to run a little session now. Lewis is going to cover the next 10 minutes about how you get involved as a provider. And then once Lewis has done that, we'll then open up and I'll go through any of those questions in the chat. So I'm going to hand you straight over to Lewis Sanders, who's one of our Children, Young People and Families Development Officers.
Thanks, Tim, and good evening, everyone. I hope everyone's keeping well. Yeah, so how did you get involved in this programme? So as Tim mentioned, we are required to offer a programme to every young person who's eligible for free school meals. So that's 12,711. We've had a bit of feedback after last week where some of the figures didn't quite work out. So we are now looking at targeting 3,800 young people every day during the summer holidays. To give you an idea of scale, we're going to need around 382 sessions every day if each of those sessions have 10 young people who are eligible for free school meals. So that just gives you such an idea of how big a project this is. As we mentioned earlier, the session should be open for all, so irrelevant whether they're on free school meals or not. But what we are expecting is that those young people on free school meals would not be charged, and I'll come on to that a little bit in a minute around some of the grant process which we can do to support that. And along with this, we are also required by the Department for Education to make sure that all the sessions meet the standards. So as Shelley mentioned, how are you going to provide food meeting the minimum food standards? How are you going to make sure that the sessions meet the CMO guidelines? Some of you may have heard of the Active 60, which is required by young people. So young people are expected to, or are recommended, to do 60 minutes of activity every day. 30 minutes of that should be in school time, and then 30 minutes outside. So obviously during the summer holidays, all of that is then going to be outside of school time. As we also mentioned, how can you support it with enrichment activities to support that emotional resilience, and through arts, crafts, using blue space, ventures and things like that. But also, more importantly at the moment, how can you make sure that you're keeping yourselves and the young people safe with those protective measures during COVID? Obviously, at the moment, there's still a little bit of uncertainty about what that's going to look like in the summer. But to give you an idea, around Easter, we were looking at groups of no more than 15 in terms of bubbles. But that may well change. And obviously, when we get here that for certain, then we'll obviously pass that out to everyone as much as possible. And then finally, those minimum operating standards, which everyone should be doing anyway. So making sure your insurance is in place, risk assessments, safeguarding policies, and making sure that it's inclusive and accessibility for everyone. In terms of the application process, this will be opening up on Monday. We are having a central booking system across the whole of the county. So this is what it will look like, or this is what we used during Easter for a pilot program. So it will look very similar to this. There might be some different changes, but in terms of an idea, this is what it could look like. It will be as simple as possible. So we no more than be around about the 20 questions over 4 pages. As you can see, the first 4 here are the name of the organisation and things like that. It uses a program called Let's Talk Cornwall, and the 2 big questions which we need the information from you is on this page is question number 8 and question number 11. So question 8, please detail the activities that you'll be offering. We don't need essays and paragraphs, but we do need something more than just surfing and things like that. So please break that down as much as you can, so making sure you let us know how you're going to be, what physical activity sessions you're going to be offering, or how you're going to meet the physical activity guidelines, how you're going to meet the food standards, and also what enrichment and cultural activity you'll be taking part in as well. And then finally, number 11, the other important question which we'll be looking at is how are you going to reach those young people, and how are you going to make sure that the sessions you're putting on is wanted by those young people. So really making sure you have that that sort of consultation with young people and their families about how making sure that what you're putting on is needed. And then the final sort of slide is on the application form. Is all around the standards we just mentioned. So there are a few links there which will show you how take you onto the government website around the guidelines for physical activity, and also there's protective measures and going forward. So hopefully you can see that we've tried to make it as easy as possible, but also hopefully you can understand that we need a lot of this information to make sure that what we're delivering is safe for young people, but also making sure that it's set up for we've got all the information which we can set up for the county central booking system. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the grant support. So following the session a couple of days ago, we have increased the amount of grant that we can support you with. However, this is an average of £18.40 per child per day. So as Tim mentioned, around one of the key risks we know is that rural provision. So it may be that if you're in a rural place, that you may need to increase those costs to around £20 per child per day. But if you're in a more urban area, so whether that's a big town or Truro City, then actually you may be able to reduce those costs down to 15. But we are able to support on average £18.40 a day, and then we'll support that with 50% of the grant up front, and then 50% on completion of the monitoring, learning and evaluation sessions, which we'll release later on. I've also put down a example of those grants, and you need to make sure that it is an example. So some of these costs may not suit you. Some of the things which we've put down there also might not be relevant to you. So we've put an example here where we have 20 young people turning up, and 50% of those are eligible for free school meals. So 10 are eligible for free school meals. So hopefully you can see there with that example that food at £3 a head, 2 coaches at £20 an hour for 4 hours a day, and the facilities at £25 an hour. That all comes to £320 for that single day. What the key points here is, as we said, we can offer £18.40 per head as a grant, but then you'll need to meet that difference through charging the young people who are not eligible for free school meals. So in this case, that'll be making sure that you're charging at £13.60. What this programme is not around is looking for providers to be making profits. So we need to make sure that that the expenditure and the income is balanced out. So in terms of some differences which may occur, you may not have to charge for facilities if you're using an open space or something, but you may need a minibus to hire to be able to transport the young people around. You might be able to get food for free, which will do, or it might be £4 a head. It's depending on how you can get those. Those costs are obviously very individual to you, and we're obviously able to work with you on that. As I mentioned, the county central booking system, we're going to be using a organisation or a system called Playways. This will be compulsory, but this will enable young people and parents and guardians to be able to book onto any programme over the summer anywhere across the whole of the county. It would also make sure that it's open access for young people. So even if they're even if young people who are eligible for free school meals, they will receive a code sent out via school system for free. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Obviously, those who will need to pay or not on free school meals, they will pay using the system, and then that system will also that payment will then go directly into your accounts. So they can be coming into us. It'll be going straight into yourself. But also the good thing is that it'll make sure that it gives you the back end data for all the young people. You'll be able to keep your registers on there. It'll have emergency contact information, dietary requirements, and there will be an app available for all projects to be able to keep those registers. If you're not able to use an app because you're in a part of Cornwall where there isn't much signal, then you can then come back, use the computer and log back in and check people in as normal. So there will be some more webinars closer to the summer, which will be run by Playways about how to use this system. But yeah, hopefully that's covers that as much information as you need at the moment. Any questions, then obviously do put it in the chat box and we'll do what we can to support that. And then finally, we will be using social media to promote, but also to interact with you guys. Please make sure that you use your own organisation policies for social media. But if you can, use the hashtag T2M holiday programme and hashtag HAF2021, then that would be great. And then we'll make sure that we can support that going forwards. Thanks very much, Tim. Sorry, Tim, you're on mute.
Thanks, Lewis. Not sure how that happened, but there we go. So we welcome any questions now. You can use the chat function and then we can just talk about them. There's a good question in here if you've not found the chat function from Ben. Shelley's answered it in the chat, but just in case other people are still thinking the same thing about our providers expected to prepare the food themselves, or can they deliver the food by a third party? They definitely can deliver that food by a third party, and we'd be keen for them to work with a third party. And it may be that we can partner you up with a third party to provide that food. We're looking to engage with some wider food providers, and we're also going to look to see if we engage with potentially supermarkets and other people where we can get food free of charge that can actually come into your program as well. So to make sure there's more income there and resource for delivery. So yes, we do no expectation that you have to deliver the food yourselves, but can you incorporate food into your program and how you deliver? So could you work with somebody to come in and deliver some food? Can we have fun with food? Can we deliver outdoor cooking? Those types of things as well, which we really want to bring into the programs and the delivery moving forward. So we've got a question around the booking system. If parents have got difficulty accessing online, yes, we can definitely we can sort that out. We'll have an offline system as well to make sure we've not got as many barriers as possible. It can be done through phones and text options, so it would definitely be able to be done through a phone where you can access and book on through that system as well. So we find most things now are done that way. And in fact, 100% of the free school meal applications in Cornwall are done online by parents. So we know people can access it, and we'll just make sure it's friendly for a phone. It doesn't need to be done through a laptop or a device at home. So I hope that's answered that question. Sue, the booking system is trying to make the administration as easy as possible for you and for parents to book on. It's not trying to put another layer in there. It's to make the system a lot easier than it can be, and to reduce amount of administration, but also enable us to be able to collect the data we need in order to do the reporting for the Department for Education investment that we get. And it's also to take away that stigma, really take away as much stigma as we can. A child wouldn't know who's got it free and who's paying on the programme as well. So we see this booking system can really help towards that, as well as make administration easier for you guys. Delivery must be for 4 weeks and 4 hours. For 4 weeks and 4 hours, yes, 4 days per week is the expectation. So the government expectation around this programme is all the fours. So it comes for 4 weeks of the summer holidays, for 4 days a week, for 4 hours. We know some providers might not be suitable to deliver for all of that period. And it may be you come in and, you know what, we can deliver a programme for every Monday of the school holidays. It's up to us in how we work and support that. And that's something that we still may consider, and we'd want to have that conversation with you to go, that still works, because we've got another provider in your locality that may deliver for the rest of that period as well. So definitely have a conversation with us if you think that you can't deliver for all of that period and you just want to say do 1 week. You may be new to this and you want to test and learn and just get involved for a week's delivery. Then again, have that conversation with us. Don't just think that this is then not suitable for you. We need to make sure there is provision for all children on free school meals for 4 weeks, for 4 hours a day, for 4 days a week. That doesn't mean the same provider has to deliver all of that, if that's clear. Hopefully that answers the question.
Tim, can I follow up on that? Is that right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just because last year we put in filling the holiday gap application on that exact same basis of 4 weeks, 4 days, 4 hours. And for that, we actually teamed up with another provider because we weren't able to provide that. So between us and the other provider, we put a joint application in. But by the looks of the application form, that's not the sort of thing you'd be looking for this time. Is that right? Based on what you just said as well, we could just put in what we can provide, and then you can actually do the shuffling around.
Yeah, good question. We want to make it as easy for you guys. So if you have a local provider that you know and you're engaged with, and you've got that collaboration and you want to put a collaboration bid in, then the application will be able to handle that. But you don't have to go and do that pre-work. If you haven't already done that pre-work, submit to us, and then we're going to look to map around where providers are in certain localities to then make sure we've got that provision there. So the challenge is ours, not yours, to make sure that there's enough provision for 4 weeks, 4 days, 4 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Another question around the booking system being a barrier to access. Could providers deliver on open days where anyone could attend? So really good question. Drop-in open access is crucial for the children that we're talking about, especially the secondary older children. So if they've not booked on by the system and somebody drops into one of your sessions, we don't expect you to turn them away, but we do expect you to capture the data of that child through the information that's on the system. And then the idea is that providers will upload the booking system post in order to be part of that monitoring and evaluation. So unfortunately, if we're going to give grant money out, we've got to report about the who, what, how long, all of that information we need to report back to government. So therefore, it will just be up to you as a provider to input that information on that person that just dropped into the system post delivery, if that makes sense. And then the way we will collect all the data will be after that. And once all that data's in, that will release your final 50% payment. And it doesn't matter if you don't hit, we expect you to work towards your target, and we'll work with you to have a realistic target of young people on free school meals you're going to engage with. But if you don't hit that target, you still get 100% of your money. We're not going to not give you the money because you've not hit your target. You still have those costs. We just give 50% up front and 50% post that submission through that booking system. So Charlotte, if that doesn't answer your question, then either speak up now if you would like to, or just drop us an email post. Or we're going to put some email contacts on in a minute, and you can drop us an email.
No, that was brilliant. Thank you. I do quite a lot of youth work, and I know that there's some quite good spaces for doing youth work but young people would just be dropping in. It'd be really hard to get them to book in. And some of the families locally, I know that if they have to fill out anything or do anything first, then they won't go. So just having that option is really handy.
Yeah, we recognise that, and youth work and youth provision is crucial for this intervention to be successful. Lots of youth workers are that trusted individual within local communities, and we really need to work with them to engage in this programme. So it could well be a youth provision where we need to then add not just the food element, but support with the physical activity element as well. And we can do that as well by partnering up, not just the food, but the physical activities, as I said. So yeah, we're really keen to make sure it engages with that. Over Easter, we piloted some interventions with Interbodmin in the Bodmin, and that was exactly the same around that drop-in, and really crucial, as I said, for that older children. So yeah, we recognise how important that is. And likewise, we want to be picked up if you think we're not catering for that. So feel free to get in touch and to let us know.
Okay, thank you.
We've just got kind of one more slide really about the next steps for you guys and the timeline. If there's no further questions, we'll move on to that. If something comes to you post this, please email in at any time and we'll get back to you. And I'm looking forward to working with you up to the lead up to and during summer as well, which would be great. So over to you, Lewis.
Thanks, Tim. So yes, the next steps, obviously as I mentioned earlier on, the application process will be sent out to everyone who's attended these webinars on the 10th of May. So that'll be a direct link so that everyone can, won't have to hunt for anything. It'll be there, easy to access. So between now and then, it will be worth, obviously, as we mentioned, begin to consider if there is any partnerships that you need to create and what gaps that you need to fill, if it's physical activity, food, facilities, enrichment, etc. But also, please, if you need any help with that, as Tim's mentioned, please get in touch and we can partner people up and put people together if that's needed. Also, think about how you're going to be promoting those sessions to making sure that we're reaching that audience of young people on free school meals, but also considering that stigma that could be attached to that. So making sure it is open access, but ensuring that we are trying to target as many of that 3,000 or nearly 3,500 young people that we're looking to target. And then finally, how can you consult with young people and families to make sure your offer is suitable? In terms of some other key dates going forwards, as we said, the booking system training will be towards the end of May, and then begin to promote your sessions in June. We'll also be looking to have a learning event in September with a date to be confirmed, and then the 17th of September is then when we require all the completion of the monitoring, learning and evaluation, and then your final invoices as well. So they're the sort of next steps. If you do need to if you do need to get into touch with me, I think my email is on the next slide, or if not, I will drop it into the chat box, which you can then feel free to get in touch with me.
Thank you very much, Lewis. It just leaves me to say that there's Lewis's contact details. If you want to get in touch with Lewis, we've got our website, which is developing more content as we move forward. We're starting to develop this brand around time to move, time to play. We're connecting in with the 5 ways to well-being, so that time to be active, time to connect, time to keep learning. So we're thinking around those 5 ways to well-being and how we link them into this program. But thank you very much for your time this evening. There's a couple more questions just coming in, which we can either answer on the chat. Is there funding available for promotion? Yes, you can link that into your funding bid. So when you submit your funding bid, then that will be included in your costs when you're going to go in there. You might want to put promotion, transport, those types of things that you can put into your project costs as you submit that through. That's fine. There'll be some, because of this one booking system, that will have all of the activity put on it. So we'll produce some county-wide messaging and promotion, but again, you include that into your program costs when you come forward. And will we help promote the range of programs and those providers? Yes, we will. We're doing massively some county-wide promotion around this program, working very closely with education. We're very much linked in with the education service and linking with them, and the promotion through schools and the youth provision as well is crucial. So, and then we'll make sure, Charlotte, we get copies of that out. It's very interesting that how we prove children of free school meals. Is that what you mean, Charlotte? And bring in that monitoring. Lots of the system is going to work through direct comms through schools to those children that are registered for free school meals, but there's going to be some trust elements put into this program as well, and how it works. We recognise that, and that's something that's being talked about nationally as well. Any further questions, email into the email address on there. I just want to say a huge thank you to Lewis and Shelley for joining us. I make that bang on 7 o'clock, so I want to make sure you get away on time. We've stuck to that hour, and you'll get a recording of this webinar as well. Will be available for you to pick up, and I look forward to working with you over this summer. Thank you very much.